Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're diving deep into the military strategy and technology that Iran is reportedly using in its conflict with Israel. We're going to break down the analyses from various military and geopolitical sources to really understand the weapons, the doctrine, and these big strategic claims about a new era of warfare.
Okay, so to get our heads around the strategy, we first have to look at two key weapons that are, well, polar opposites. On one side, you have the Fatter II. Think of it as the Speed Demon. It's a hypersonic glide vehicle, about 4 tons, and it's all about moving at insane speeds. On the other side, you've got the Sejjil II, which is just a beast. It's a 23.5-ton ballistic missile that's 5 to 6 times heavier. So you have speed versus mass. And that contrast, that is the absolute key to the entire strategic logic here.
And speed is a huge factor. Just look at this number, 7 minutes. According to Iranian sources, that's how long it takes for a Sejjil II missile to hit Tel Aviv after launching from western Iran. Now, to put that into perspective for you, Israel's entire civil defense system is reportedly built around a 90-second warning. A 7-minute flight time just shatters that, shrinking the window from detection to impact down to almost nothing.
But here's the thing. It's not just about how fast the missile flies through the air. The real game changer is the technology that gets the missile off the ground in the first place. And this is all about the solid fuel advantage.
So you gotta understand, the old way of doing things with missiles like the Shahab series was all about liquid fuel. And that might sound like a minor technical detail, but trust me, it's a massive vulnerability. Before these things can ever hope to launch, they have to be fueled up, a process that takes a long time and, more importantly, is super easy to spot.
Think about what that means. This whole multi-step process creates a huge, glaring window of opportunity for intelligence agencies. The launcher is just sitting there, a sitting duck, for anywhere from 30 minutes to several hours. All the while, it's giving off heat and chemical signatures that are like a giant flare for any surveillance satellite looking down. It's basically an open invitation for an adversary to spot it and destroy it on the ground before it ever gets a chance to fire.
And then everything changes. Enter solid fuel missiles like the Sejjil II. With these systems, the fuel is solid and it's built right into the missile when it's made. They're stored completely ready to go right out of the box.
So look at this. The sequence becomes almost ridiculously simple. You drive it to a location, you raise it, and you fire. That's it. Because the whole system is mobile and needs almost no setup, the launch sequence gets compressed from hours into mere minutes. That huge vulnerable preparation window we just talked about, it's pretty much gone. This makes the system incredibly survivable and nearly impossible to target before it leaves the ground.
So what's the big takeaway here? Well, according to the analysts we're looking at, it's not just that Iran has a better missile. It's that they're using different kinds of missiles together to create what's basically an impossible choice for anyone trying to defend against them.
And that brings us to the big question, right? How in the world do you defend against two totally different kinds of threats at the exact same time? This is the core dilemma that analysts say is being thrown at Israeli and American air defense systems. By launching both types in the same wave, you force the defense system to solve two completely different problems simultaneously. It's like trying to catch a lightning-fast baseball and a super-heavy bowling ball thrown at you at the same time. The Fatter II is too fast. It gets there before interceptors can really do their job. The Sejjil II is just a brute. It's designed to overwhelm defenses with a massive warhead, maybe up to 1.5 tons, and maybe even multiple warheads. This combined punch forces the defense's fire control system to juggle two separate physics problems at once, burning through its limited supply of interceptors like crazy.
And hey, this isn't just a theory, you know? Look at this number, 141. On March 15th, during something called Wave 54, sirens reportedly went off in 141 different places across Israel, all at once. I mean, that just shows you the sheer scale and saturation that this kind of doctrine can actually achieve in the real world.
So, as you can probably guess, the analysts we're looking at say this goes way beyond just missile impacts on a battlefield. They argue it's a strategy aimed right at the foundations of a country's economic and regional stability.
Take analyst John Mearsheimer, for instance. He points to something really critical: infrastructure. He argues that if you target something like a desalination plant in a Gulf nation that relies on it for fresh water, you could basically cripple that nation, destroying it as, in his words, a functioning society.
And, some analysts push this idea even further. Scott Ritter argues that what we're actually witnessing is a strategic defeat for the United States.
He's claiming that U.S. security guarantees to its allies in the Gulf are being exposed as empty promises, that Israel's infrastructure is getting pummeled, and that the long-term result of all this is an inevitable eviction of U.S. forces from the entire region. Okay, so when you hear these analysts say Iran is winning, what do they actually mean? Well, it's really important to understand they're not talking about traditional battlefield victories or casualty counts. They're pointing to a whole different kind of strategic win. Dr. Patrick Ringenberg, for example, suggests that there's this fundamental misunderstanding in the West about Iran's historical and national resilience. He says the West has built this vision of a country which has almost nothing to do with the many realities, and because of that, he calls the very idea of a military victory against it a foolish idea.
Then you have John Mearsheimer, who brings up this idea of escalation dominance. And his argument is pretty provocative. He contends that as you walk up the escalation ladder, it's not the US or Israel that has the upper hand. He thinks it's actually Iran that holds the powerful cards to play.
And Scott Ritter, he really defines this idea of winning in political terms. For him, it's not about how much military gear gets destroyed. He says, we're losing politically. It's all about achieving those long-term goals, like kicking the US out of the region and changing the entire power dynamic in the Middle East.
So when you put all this together, what these analyses are really saying is that we're seeing a major shift in how modern conflict works, all because of these advanced, survivable missile systems.
And this phrase right here, the technological threshold is rising, I mean, that really says it all, doesn't it? We're talking about homegrown weapon systems developed over decades that are now leveling the playing field and challenging some very old assumptions about who has military superiority. Which leaves us with a pretty heavy final thought to chew on. As this kind of advanced, survivable missile technology spreads around the world, could this be the new face of global conflict? Are we watching a future unfold where regional powers can challenge superpowers, not by meeting them head-on, but through a new kind of high-tech strategic deterrence?